اينشتاين بيقول التعليم مفهوش ملل، حط نفسك مكاني هتفقد الامل. ملينا المدرسه ونظام صب وكب، شرح طول الوقت عمل لنا دروب. يا استاذنا عقلي مش سبونج بوب، يشرب المعلومه وبعديها يكب. هنا في نوسكول طلعنا من الدروب، لعب مرح تفاعلات هتعجبك يا بوب.
نوسكول Academy. Simply learn different.
Hello everyone, in this video, welcome to Nowschool, and this is Miss Nihal with you. Today we're going to have the grammar lesson of Unit 13, Doctor's Orders. So here we come to the end of the syllabus. And actually we're going to discuss two parts in this video. We're going to discuss the defining relative clauses and the rule of used to. So let's see together that our tools are ready beside us, that we are totally separated from any kind of distraction. We have the tools beside us, which are the highlighters, the notebook, the school book, a dictionary, of course, or anything that you can scan the QR code from it, okay? Here we have the objectives of today, so please help me to achieve the target as usual. By the end of the session, you're going to be able to analyze a text containing different defining relative clauses, okay? And you're gonna mention the uses of the defining relative clauses, explain actions using the target form, which is the defining relative clauses and defining relative pronouns, relative adverbs. We're going to see everything. Also to express past habits using used to, okay? So let's get started. The keywords for the session that you are going to hear throughout the whole duration of the session are, let's see together, we're going to see the clause, what's mean by clause, relative pronouns, the word defining, the word past habits, and used to. And of course, I asked you from the last session to prepare them. So please show me your preparation. Can you? Down in the comments. What? What's this? Hazaloom is saying something. Let's listen to this video. Yeah, this one.
خلينا نشوف انت بتهبب ايه. الله لا يسيئك اهو. افتح بقى الفولدر اللي بتاع الفيديوهات. دوس انتر. بين الزراير يا ابني على اليمين هتلاقيه. يا ابني خد حرام عليك مش كده. يلا ما تزعليش يا عم. بص سيح. انت قصدك الزرار ده اهو. اتنيل دوس عليه.
Okay. I got that you didn't do anything. Some of you, of course. Okay, it's something funny. Have you enjoyed this short video? So please, let's start the session because otherwise I'm going to punish you. Also some of you. Okay, first of all, before going deep inside the video, scan the QR code and play this game and come back to me so quickly. I'm just waiting for you here. Guys. Yeah, cutie boy, how are you? Why are you sad? Why are you like this? What? This is gonna be your face? Why? Are you sad of Miss Nihal? You're not going to laugh with me and play with me? Why are you sad? Calm down. Okay, here is the start of the session, the actual start, okay? So, first of all, we're going to have a warm-up activity. Please tell me the first friend you made at school. Talk about the first friend you made at school. You may write 1 or 2 sentences at most, or just prepare the notes to discuss in the Zoom session. The second thing that you are asked to do is to talk about the first car that your father or mother had or bought one day in the past, and the first place where you and your family go on holidays. So please write few sentences as the answers of these questions because they are going to be the fuel of our session, and we will see how. As I told you, we're going to discuss what is a clause. We're going to hear a word clause throughout the whole session. So what is the clause? The clause is a part of a sentence. You see, the sentence may be containing more than one clause. So here we're going to repeat the word, the main clause, the relative clause, the main clause, the relative clause, and so on, okay? So here are the relative clause that we are going to talk about. The relative clause gives information to the main clause. For example, if I say something meaningless, okay, and I need to add information to make the sentence sensible, or to make it to make sense to this sentence. So this is what I call a relative clause. So again, it gives information about the object or the subject of a sentence of the main clause, the meaningless one, and the information may be important or necessary or essential. So this is one type of the relative clauses, which is called the defining relative clauses, and this is the main issue of our session today. But if the information is extra, unnecessary, not that important, so this type of clauses is called non-defining, and we will not talk about it today, okay? So again, the relative clause or the defining relative clause mainly tells us which person, thing, place, idea, or any object that the sentence is talking about, the main clause is talking about. For example, the woman who lives next door is a doctor. This is a full sentence containing a main clause and a relative clause. You know this? I know that you don't know. Okay, let's emphasize this sentence, okay? So the main clause, the main sentence was the woman lives next door. What's wrong with her? Who is she? Who is that woman? We are just talking about the woman. So we want to add extra, but not extra mainly. We want to add essential, important information to make this sentence meaningful. So we're going to say the woman who lives next door is a doctor. By this, we add a relative, mainly a defining relative clause to the main clause. You got it now? Okay, and here is the explanation in front of you on this slide, okay? So again, the defining relative clause added essential information to the main clause that we cannot omit, that we cannot leave it out. It's an important part. It has a vital importance to make the sentence meaningful. You got it? Another example to emphasize and clarify the meaning more for you, here is we have a sentence that is, a man was from Scotland. You see, this is a main clause or a relative clause. Of course, this is a main clause because the meaning is not full. Yeah, it doesn't make sense alone, okay? So we want to add essential information to make it meaningful. Can you see the sentence at the last line in the screen in front of you? The man who sold me my car was from Scotland. Now we got the meaning. What do you want to say? Which man, or who is the man that you are talking about? So here the information is essential, it's not extra, and this kind of clauses is called defining relative clauses. So in front of you now, how many kinds of clauses or relative clauses mainly that we have? Yeah, great, two types. The defining relative clauses and the non-defining relative clauses. Our main issue is what I've just told you. Yeah, the defining ones. So again, the defining relative clause gives information that is important, that is of vital importance, that we cannot omit, that we cannot leave out. Here we are repeating and repeating the information for you or in front of you on the screen. It's most common in spoken English. The main feature of the defining relative clause that there are no commas in it. So it defines the information. It tells us which noun that we are talking about, whether this noun is about a person, an object, a place, an idea, a thing, or whatever, okay? Also, it's used for definitions. It defines facts and information, okay? So it's used a lot in definitions. For example, do you know the man who is talking to Tom? Which man? Specifically that man or that boy. Do you know the boy? Okay? So we are talking about specific person. Here we are going to talk about the relative pronouns, the tool that we mix the relative clause to the or we join the relative clause with the main clause. So the most important tool that we use to join such clauses together is what we call relative pronouns. What are the relative pronouns? They are some words, as you can see on this slide, used to join two sentences together. And we know what are the two sentences, of course, okay? For example, Peter is the student, as you can see on the screen. He comes from England. So we have a main clause, a full stop, and another clause. It's also a main clause, if you want to understand more. So we have simply two sentences, between them full stop, okay? How can we join these two sentences together using a relative pronoun? We're going first of all to see what are we talking about. Who is we talking about, okay? Whether it's an object or a person, a place or time, a reason or a subject or an object. Many factors that we have to decide which relative pronoun we are going to choose based on them, based on these factors, okay? Here we are talking about Scotland, England, or the boy, or the man Peter, yeah, we are talking about Peter. So Peter is a person. We are going to choose the relevant or the suitable relative pronoun, which is who. And then, first of all, omit or cancel the full stop in the middle and join the sentences in a certain way together to make it more meaningful. And by this, you build up a relative clause. And more specifically, it's a defining relative clause, okay? So again, Peter is the student. He comes from England. After joining them using who, of course, because it's the most suitable one, we're going to discuss the usages of each relative pronoun. Peter is the student who comes from England. Hope that you understand this point. Here is a table, a blue table in front of you that discusses which relative pronoun comes with what, okay? For example, we have here the first relative pronoun is who, and we use who with people, okay? And the next one is which. We use which with animals and things. And then we have whose, and whose is going to be used when we talk about possessions, something owned by someone or something belongs to someone. So use whose in this case. And then we have when, of course, when is used to talk about time and time words. And alternative, another similar thing to when is on which or in which, okay? Then we go to where is of course used to express places, place words, street, room, house, and whatsoever. And the alternatives for where are in which, at which, on which, to which. All of these are synonyms to where. Also, we use why to talk about reasons, and the alternative or the synonym for why is for which, when we are going to talk about a certain cause or reason. So we use why. We have a joker, a multifunctional pronoun, which is that, because that can be used instead of who and which. So we use that to talk about people, talk about animals, talk about things, talk about objects, ideas. It's a multifunctional pronoun, as I told you. It's used instead of which or who, but actually only in the defining relative clause cases, only, because when you have the lesson or the grammar lesson of the non-defining, you're not going to have such point, okay? So pay attention for this now. Also, we have another relative pronoun, which is whom, and whom is used to express or to talk about people, especially when they are the object of the sentence, and it's a formal way to talk in English, because in the spoken everyday spoken language, whom is not used, okay? It's the alternative for who, but in the formal language, the more formal language. And here you have an illustration that shows you a photo that shows you what with what. When for places, who for people, and so on. When for time, and so on, okay? don't forget that a relative clause starts with a relative pronoun. So we start the relative clause with the relative pronoun. Relative pronouns actually cannot or will not differ whether it's the noun is singular or plural, feminine or masculine. They don't vary, okay? It's indifferent, okay? One important note here that they are somehow similar to the question words. But one thing that we didn't mention today, or we don't mention, is what. So don't get confused between when it is a question word and when it is a relative pronoun. And never ever use what in our lesson, okay? It's not a relative pronoun. What is something different. It's a question word, you see? Okay. Let's talk more about each relative pronoun separately, the usages and the meaning and some examples that make you understand more. Are you ready with me? So the very start here is who. As I told you, who is used to talk about people. Of course, not only who. Do you remember what is the multifunctional pronoun? Yeah, great, that. So we use who and that to talk about people, great. But of course, it replaces either the subject of the sentence or the object. And this is another issue that we are going to discuss, but let's see the examples together. The first example, the man lives next door. He is very friendly. As I told you, the question comes in which form? You have two sentences, between them a full stop. So first of all, omit the full stop. Ask yourself, what are we talking about? The friendliness of the man itself, the place that he lives in? No, we are talking about the main subject, or the main topic that we are discussing here is regarding the man. So the proper or the relevant, the most appropriate, the most suitable pronoun is going to be who. So we are going to omit the full stop, rephrase or rewrite the sentence using the relative pronoun. And actually, the relative pronoun, who, what I mean, comes directly after the noun it describes. Okay? Comes directly after the noun it describes. So it's almost, the relative pronoun is almost preceded by the noun it describes. You got this? What are we going to say for the answer? The answer is going to be the man who lives next door is very friendly. It's totally wrong to say the man lives next door is very friendly in one sentence. It's totally wrong. Don't do that. Another example, but actually I'm going to leave you discuss it to yourself. Can you read it silently, think it over, try to answer it alone, and then tell me in the comments, how about it? Huh? Think it over.
ولأن العقل السليم في الجسم السليم، خلينا نعمل مع بعض شوية.
Okay, have you finished reading, understanding the other examples? Is everything okay with you? Just write down in the comments below to tell me whether there is something difficult with you or everything is okay, okay? The next relative pronoun that we are going to talk about it in detail is which. Which, of course, may be altered by that. And we use which and that to talk about animals or things, ideas, okay? Here are the examples that can make everything clear. There was ice cream, okay, that mom had made herself. So, suppose before putting that here, we had two sentences, between them a full stop, then all the speech or all the talking was about the ice cream. So the ice cream is a thing. We use which. It's the most suitable relative pronoun for things or that. Here we choose that, okay? And then we mix the two sentences together using the relative pronoun and so on. It goes the way as like this all the way through, okay? Another examples that you have here, and then we have a picture. We have who for people and which for animals and things, and that, the superhero, the multifunctional pronoun of the pronouns, it comes instead of who and instead of which. So this is our Superman, our superlative pronoun. Okay, an important tip, okay? If who or which or that actually are replacing the subject of the sentence, so never ever omit them, because in some cases we may leave out the relative pronoun. But in this case, if we are talking about the subject, the doer of the verb of the sentence, you can't omit them. They are going, it's a must to be mentioned. They are going to be mentioned as a must, okay? For example, the woman who lives next door is very friendly, or the man, okay? Because this example repeated a lot from the very beginning of the session, so I got learn it by heart, okay? So here we have the woman who lives next door is very friendly. If I say the woman lives next door is very friendly in one sentence, so it's wrong. It's going to be wrong. Don't say this, okay? You must mention who. You must mention it. It's a must to be mentioned. Why? Because the woman is the person who lives. She is the doer of the verb. By this, we call it the subject. In the case of the subject, don't omit any relative pronoun. You see? The thing that truly surprised me was her attitude. The car which caused the accident drove off. So, the attitude is the subject of the sentence, is what surprised me. The attitude is the doer of the surprise. The car is the doer of the accident, and so on. If we are talking simply and summarizing all this, if we are talking about the subject of the sentence using a certain relative pronoun, which, that, or who, don't omit it. Keep it in the sentence. Don't form up one sentence without a relative pronoun. Okay? Okay. Let's talk more about the object. What if the relative pronoun is replacing or talking about or expressing the object of the sentence? In this case, you can easily omit it. You can easily leave it out, whether it's who, which, or that. Whether you're talking about a person, something, object I mean, or idea, thing or idea. For example, as in the examples here, the thing that I really liked about my new blouse was its size. You can omit that, the thing I really liked, okay? And so on. Try these examples. You may find one example containing a relative pronoun and the other one or without it, and it makes sense. Try to say the sentence without the relative pronoun, it's going to make sense. Different from those of the subject in the case before this, okay? Here we have an image or a picture, this orange picture that clarifies for you that the relative pronouns can replace subjects and objects. With subjects, we can't omit them. With objects, we can't omit them or leave them out. Is it clear now? Have you sold the car or that you drove? Have you sold the car that you drove? Actually, it's better to omit that and say, have you sold the car you drove? It's better, okay? So without the relative pronoun in the case of the object is the better thing. You see? Let's transfer to another relative pronoun, which is whose. And as I told you at the very beginning in the blue table, that whose expresses talking about possessions, talking about owning something. Whose relates to or is related to the people, not the object. For example, this is a man, his car is red. So I'm talking about the man, and of course here whose expresses possession, and the man owns what in such talking? The car. We are talking about the man's car. Actually, whose replaces his, here, and there. Okay? Again, whose replace his, here, and there. Okay? So, omit the full stop, mix the two sentences or the two clauses together to form. So, the man whose car is red is friendly, is my neighbor, or whatsoever, okay? So again, whose expresses possession, replaces his, here, and there, and it's related more to people, not objects, okay? And you have the examples. Let's go to whom. Whom is used only in the formal English. It's not used in the spoken everyday language. Okay? It's the alternative for who. But when? At any case? No, of course. It's the alternative of who if who replaces the object of the sentence. It replaces who if who is the object of the sentence, not the subject. For example, the man was on holiday. He wanted to see him, or we wanted to see him, sorry. Let's mingle these two clauses together to be the man whom we wanted to see was on holiday. Because the main clause, let's return back to the origin of the sentence. The main clause was we wanted to see the man. We is the subject, wanted the verb, the man is the object. So we can easily don't use who and replace it with whom. You see now? Okay. And you have here another tips for whom and examples. One major tip here is if we have a preposition, as I told you, when is altered by in or on which. Where is altered with or replaced, as I told you, with in, on, at, to, which. Why, for which. Where comes the preposition? Where does the preposition placed in the sentence? Before the relative pronoun. Before it, okay? To which, in which, to whom, and so on, okay? For which. So the preposition comes before the relative pronoun, and actually it's expressed in that way more in the informal language, not the formal one. The next relative pronoun that we have today is when. And of course, when is used when we talk about time or time words such as day, year, and so on. Here we have two examples that makes everything clear. There had been a time when she hated all men. This is the year when profits should increase. So can you see where is when? It expresses what? It comes in what way? Because you're going to be asked to rewrite two sentences in such way. And this is a funny idiom or a funny example that actually happens in our daily life. This awkward moment when you laugh loudly and non-stop in a serious session or lesson, okay? So it's something funny, and of course the teacher is going to be surprised. What's happening? Why is he or she laughing in that way? Let's move on to where, and where is going to be used to express places, words like the street, the room, the house, and what's like this, okay? He showed me the place where they work, and so on. In the other examples, I will let you or will leave you read them freely. Here we have also where, the hotel. We have here two sentences, and I'm just showing you how can you form or build up one sentence containing the relative pronoun in between. So let's focus on this example. It's more important than the one before it. So let's read together. The hotel wasn't very clean. We stayed there. So you are going to mingle or mix the two sentences together using where, of course, because hotel here is a place. So you're going to make what, or to say what? The hotel where we stayed wasn't very clean. Have you seen it? You understand now? Okay. Let's move to why, and we use why to talk about reasons. We use why to talk about reasons. There are several reasons why we can do that. Why refers to causes. Why refers to causes. In some sentences, we can alter it with for which, okay? Here we have another examples, more and more examples. Read it by yourselves, please, and focus more on their usages and meaning. So here I'm just giving you a table to emphasize what we call a relative adverb. What is the relative adverb, or what's the difference between the relative adverb and the relative pronoun? Actually, the main difference that the relative adverb is preceded by a preposition. For example, we say here, instead of when, in or On which. Yeah, great. Instead of where, you can say in which, to which, or on which. Instead of why, we can say for which, and so on. So they are all alternatives, and we use this as an easier way in the everyday language, okay? So these are called relative adverbs. The quiz time, of course, take a break, pause the video, go down to the link and play such a game, educational game, of course, or scan the QR code quickly. Have a good luck and come to me very quickly. I'm just waiting for you here. Where are you guys? Be here, please. Hey, come to me. Have you taken a rest? Okay, let's start or move on to the second part of our session today, which is used to. Are you ready with me? Okay, the first question is I'm going to ask you how to use used to. How to use used to. I know that you don't know. Okay, I'm just going to discuss everything for you. But first of all, we have here an example. Let's read it together in the blue screen. We have here a frog that says, I used to be a handsome prince. Can you see this frog? It was a prince one day. Let's make ourselves believing this, okay? Let's pretend to be believing. Okay. We use used to plus infinitive or the base form of the verb or verb only to express past habits or past situations that no longer exist nowadays. For example, you show the difference between the past and the present. For example, you are talking about a certain thing that at the moment doesn't happen, okay, or is not happening. So we use used to express past habits and situations. We use the infinitive form after used to in the affirmative case, okay? So here you have some examples. I used to play in the park. I used to destroy my toys. Of course, there is something that you used to do when you were a baby. Do you remember? He or she used to wear Pampers when he or she was a baby. Okay, I know that something you used to do in the past, and of course not now. And we have another one. I used to watch cartoons and so on. So again, used to is used to show the difference or the change between the past and the present. We use the base form or the infinitive in the affirmative form after used to. And here are some examples. Focuses on the negative, the question, the affirmative, and so on. The negative question, okay? And this is a kind of quick revision for the form again. The subject comes at the very beginning, all the subject, he, she, or it, we, I, you, they, and then used to, without any change, without any extra addition, used to, and then the infinitive. And here is another example for you. This is the affirmative form. For the negative form, we use didn't use to, not didn't use to. Don't get confused for this. And one challenge here, actually, if you want to pronunciate or talk in a certain pace quickly, I bet you cannot differentiate between the pronunciation of two words. Used to and didn't use to. But don't break the syllables. Try it by yourselves. Try it on your own. You will not differentiate. Used to, didn't used to. There's no difference. Have you heard any difference? I know that it's something challenging, okay? But with didn't, grammatically, omit the D. Didn't use to, okay? This is the negative form, and here are some examples to emphasize this. She didn't used to read fairy tales. If you put never carries the negative meaning inside it. So don't put didn't. No, never used to. Okay? One important tip, one important trick. What's for the question? The question starts with did and then used to and then the question mark. The infinitive and the question mark. But actually, in more detail, did, and then the subject, and then use, not used, to, and then the infinitive, and then the question mark. Don't forget to put the question mark. Did you used to read comics as this cartoonic character? This is the example of the questions, okay? Dear guys, are you ready to practice on these? Okay, on these examples and usages? Okay. Here we have one sentence that says, 2 years ago we lived in London, but now we live in Bogota. Okay? 2 years ago we lived in London, but now we live in Bogota. Try to use used to in this. So, the answer is gonna be, think it over. Yeah, the answer key is here. 2 years ago we used to live in London, but now we live in Bogota. Okay? Another one, Josh have a car, but he sold it last year. Sorry. Josh have a car, but he sold it last year. Can you replace or fill in the space using used to? Great. Used to have. Put the verb in the infinitive form preceded by used to. Great. Excellent. Now, the time expressions or the key words that we use with used to. Of course, used to expresses past, as I told you, and mainly past simple. So, we use the same key words or the time expressions that we use with the past simple tense. Yesterday, last, ago, in the past. Can you repeat this rhyme? Yesterday, last, ago, in the past. Or when, or in old date, for example, in 2009, 2018, an old date, okay? Here we come to the quiz time, so please be prepared for the quiz. And if you feel that you miss a certain point, you can replay the video from the very beginning, get whatever information that you want, or ask me if you want anything or you see that anything is difficult, and go to this quiz. Good luck, and I'm waiting for you here. Hey, welcome back. What's up? Great. What's this? Welcome, Mr. Amr Diab. Were you with our session? Why? Why did you say that? You seem an excellent singer, and of course you seem an excellent boy and student. Okay. Let's see this together. Here is our review time, so you are totally responsible for the revision. Let's summarize all what we've taken throughout this session, okay? Here we talked about what at the very beginning, about the relative pronouns and the relative clauses, the defining relative clauses mainly. So we say that with people we use who, with things we use which, with places we use where, with time we use when, with whom for the objects, and why for reasons, whose for possession, and so on, if you remember these details. And then we transferred to talk about used to, that expresses past habits or past situations, or compare between the past and the present, and the changes happened in the two tenses. Used to is used with the infinitive or the base form in the affirmative form, or put didn't and then used, not used to, plus infinitive in the negative, and in the question start with did and then used to, and then the base form of the verb and then the question mark. And be ready for the ethical or the moral value of our session today. And of course I'm going to talk about فضل ذكر الله, because it's something necessary and important to mention Allah and trust Allah in every deed, and between every single moment in our life, try to mention Allah. اذكر الله, okay? Because there is something that says ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. وطبعا أفضل الأذكار لا إله إلا الله. Okay, so try please to apply this in your everyday life. Try to repeat this, and for your homework please check the attachments or the attached file to know what is your homework, and please do it. Promise me to do it. And for the next session, here are some keywords that I want you to be prepared with them. We have information technology, brilliant, device, design, disk drive, stressed. What are these words, Miss Nihal? I don't know. Just be prepared, and I'm going to tell you next time, not today. Okay, here we come to the end of the session. Really, I enjoy my time with you. My prayers for you. Hope you enjoyed the session with me. Until we meet again, goodbye.
نتمنى من كل قلبنا الحصة تكون عجبتك، وبنقول لك ما تنساش تحل الكويز اللي في المصادر، وكمان تقيم الحصة تحت في التعليقات. منتظرينك في اللايف في حفظ الله.